Hey Gabrielinos, Happy New Year. Hope the new year started out well for all of you, your friends and family, and that you're moving into 2022 with a renewed vigor to have a better year than we've certainly had in 2021 and 2020. So far for the police department, we've been having a good year. A lot of new policies and stuff implemented that we're going to make sure that we're putting into place to make sure our service that we're providing for you guys is knock your socks off. We're going to continue doing that. But we certainly want to welcome you into 2022. We didn't have any questions for this 411 with the chief. I really want to encourage folks that you have an opportunity. We'll answer any questions that you have, so make sure that you're putting those questions in as long as we're virtual. We're hoping to go back to live meetings here shortly, but that will happen just as soon as we go back to live council meetings. So we can anticipate those things will run together. So if you have any questions about that, you can contact either myself or you can contact our Community Engagement Bureau, and we'll give you all the answers that you need. So you can contact us directly. Anyhow, no questions this time around, so I'll just give you a little bit of an update. Crime is up. Property crime is up. There's no way to sugarcoat that. And so we just want to make sure that we're putting information out there for people to be extra vigilant. Now that we're past the holidays, we've had a little bit of a lull, but we expect that based on cities around us that it will start to creep up again. That's just the nature of the times that we're in. So make sure that you're paying attention to your neighbor, paying attention to your stuff, not leaving things in your cars. Some of the obvious things that you can do to protect yourself. Don't cover up your windows on your home. Don't cover up your windows on your business. That'll help deter criminals from coming in. Make sure that you're getting out there and using your social media and some of the other things to stay abreast of things that are going on in your neighborhood. And we have a brand new technology here. It's called FUSUS, F-U-S-U-S. And it is a video data migration system that allows private cameras to be captured in our dispatch center at your request. Obviously, you have to allow it. But we have the opportunity to have those by push button on your phone, those images and videos captured so that we can see them here and on our smartphones as we respond to calls out to your businesses and homes. So it's FUSUS, F-U-S-U-S. You can contact our Community Engagement Bureau, or you can contact our administrative captain. His name's Captain Valdez, and you can get the details on how to get that implemented. It's a very strong system for deterrence. It's a very strong system for us to be able to look at things that are happening in progress and respond appropriately. So remember, FUSUS, F-U-S-U-S, very, very important. Seek out that information, and I think you guys will really enjoy this technology. We are moving forward with that, and it's going to be very helpful for us in the future. Aside from that, just make sure that we are following all the CDC guidelines and making sure that we're looking at the local county and city and state guidelines as far as the COVID stuff. You know, we're going back through another COVID trial here, and hopefully for you and your families, if you're exposed, it's been very, very light. It was for me when I tested positive. I've since tested negative, and I really appreciate the fact that my vaccine helped keep it a very light thing for me. So get out there, get those vaccines, make sure you're exercising the social distancing and following those rules, and everybody should be okay. So with that, I'm going to bid everybody a farewell and just remind everybody, call us if you need something. We're here to talk to you. We want that engagement. Give us a call. We'll answer any questions that you have. Happy New Year and safe travels.
Hello, I'm Greg Vinck, the Public Works Director and City Engineer for the City of San Gabriel, and this is the January edition of 411 with the Chief, where I will discuss some of the things that are going on in the world of public works. So Happy New Year, everybody, and I will begin with streets, probably the biggest thing Public Works is going to be doing since I've been here and for many years to come. What I have right here on the screen is I'll go through very quickly. It's a presentation that was done to council in November, and it does talk a little bit about our history, and I've discussed this before, and I've shown excuse me, I've shown a preview the last time I did a 411 in November. Sorry, I have a little post-nasal drip that makes me cough because I did have COVID over the holidays. It's all behind me and I've tested negative, but I will now be coughing for months, I think. In the world of paving, I'll go through very fast. So historically we've spent $1 to $2 million for many of the past 2 decades. More recently, around $2 million. And our treatment that we did was we went for the very worst street and we fully dug out the street, rejuvenated the base, put back a whole new street, It's the highest quality process we can do other than putting a concrete street. But the reality of doing that costs over $1 million a mile in recent years, and with $1 to $2 million, we would do recently 2 miles of paving and spend all our money, and we have 77 miles of streets and alleys. So we would address 2 miles, and then 75 miles would be allowed to degrade from whatever they're at, going down towards poor condition. It was an unsustainable process, and the result of decades of that led to the street conditions we have, which were pretty poor overall. And I'll discuss how that's scored later. So we've changed our process. We evaluated all the available processes for street work, and we did a project in 2020 that was ARAM, which is a thin wearing membrane, and slurry, which is just a liquid asphalt coating to fill the cracks and slow degradation. It's much more cost effective. For $1.5 million, we did maybe 12 miles of streets. It can't address the worst streets. It doesn't work at all on bad streets. But what we did was we took our medium streets, invested in a much more affordable process, and we stopped the degradation. We kind of froze them at medium, or even good. They tend to look like new streets. They're not structurally as strong as a new street, but we stopped their degradation so we buy time to get control of the problem that got away from us. In dealing with streets, we start with a budget. We look at different processes, what streets are appropriate for those processes, how many streets we can afford to do. We look at clustering streets and funding opportunities. So our street program is not funded with general fund dollars historically. It's 100% grants, and there's a big variety of grants. I think the last project we did maybe had about 7 different funding sources. Here's a list. Gas tax, community development block grants, traffic congestion, and road maintenance, which is called SB1, Prop C, Measure R, Measure M, and a waste management fee. And last year we added 2 new fees, 2 new funding sources. One was a California used tire grant from Cal Recycle, where they pay us to invest in asphalt that has crumb rubber. It's shredded up car tires, but that produces a much nicer product. That rubber's a little more flexible, it rides a little quieter and smoother, and they paid us for that material enhancement. I don't think San Gabriel's ever applied for that grant before for street paving. And we brought in sewer funds for the first time ever, because every time we pave streets and change grades, we affect the manholes, and they have to be adjusted to grade or replaced to new manholes, the framing covers that you see on the street. Historically, we've just used paving dollars for that, where it is a sewer infrastructure upgrade, and we have a separate sewer fund in San Gabriel. So rather than have the streets pay for it, we use the sewer funds for it, which frees up more money for more paving. So we've done a lot of things. We've changed our program, and in the last few projects, in 2018 we did full remove and replace. We did 1 mile for $1 million. In 2019 we did full remove and replace again, $2.3 million for 2 miles. And then later in 2020 we did that cheaper preservative process. We spent $1.45 million and we did 12 miles of streets. The most recent project we did, which actually hasn't finished, is a new street essentially over the old street. And we did bring in new grants. We had piled up money from 3 years of one of the grants, and so it was $5.7 million, much bigger than our usual budget. And what we did was 10.6 miles of our very worst streets, including Las Tunas. So now we have new crumb rubber asphalt streets essentially over the very thin crumbling streets we had. So I think that's a very good solution. It's sustainable, it fits our budget. If we can keep that process in place over the next few years, I think the residents will generally be very happy with the quality of their streets. And historically, very few people were happy with the quality of our streets. A very unfortunate discovery in our last project of this new process of putting a new street over the old street, we would grind down 4 inches at the gutter, taper it to 0 at 7 feet out. So we're grinding a wedge. and putting back a 4-inch street. So the center of the street is 4 inches higher than it used to be, requiring all the manholes to be adjusted. At the gutter, we grind down 4 inches and put back 4 inches because we have to keep the grade of the street the same at the gutter. We can't just keep raising the street at the gutter. Stormwater won't drain properly, and the curb itself will disappear over time as the street gets higher and higher. So here's a picture of a bad street. Here's a picture of the grinding. So you can see it goes from dirt to a little bit of asphalt and then the old street. And here's a picture of my cell phone. And you can see that we have about 2 inches of asphalt and 2 inches of dirt. Almost every street we hit with this project was 2 inches or even 1.5 inches in places over dirt. That is a really pathetic section. People have thicker driveways than we had streets. So the big problem there is the contractor gets paid money when they grind the street, and they send clean grindings away because they can be reused for future purposes in base or asphalt. And once you till dirt into the mix, now it's not a recyclable product, and the contractor paid to get rid of it, and it gets trucked further away. So essentially it's a little over $1,000 a truck once we find dirt, and we found dirt everywhere. And to really put it in perspective, on their productive days, that cost impact of finding dirt was costing us an additional $50,000 a day, which burns through our contingency funds very quickly. That's the explanation of it. This is the current project I'm talking about, where all these residential streets were 2 inches and very expensive to deal with. Since we were running out of money, we started from south to north. We did all these. We moved the contractor to Las Tunas to buy us some time while we figured out our budgets and what we could afford to do. And actually I'll show another map here. This is the last bit that actually got deferred while we figured out if we could afford to do it or not. So it's Adeline, Milton, a little spot of Leslie, Gordon, and Rosemont. This little cluster of streets was delayed to see if we could afford to do it or not. Also, the contractor hit their AQMD limit for asphalt production, which is annual, so they hit their limit in November and had to leave town. And so now we're back in January, and they're coming back today. Today is actually January 12th. And for this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're going to try and do all the remaining streets. We're very close on budget. We're monitoring it. But we are anticipating being able to do every street that was originally bid in this project. Our contingency is completely gone by that dirt problem, but I think we're going to make it. So, back to the presentation. So we hired the county to score our streets. Every 3 years, one of our granting requirements is we have to rate our streets and have a pavement plan. And so they score it this way. You can see they're good, well, excellent, good, fair, poor, and failed, and they have an associated score. So every 3 years, we have to have either a private consultant or the county offers this service. 3 years ago, we had a private consultant. Last year, we hired the county. And these are maps we've updated ourselves on our GIS system, and red and orange are bad and poor, and dark green is excellent, light green is good. And you can see over these 3 years that we have probably 1/3 bad, 1/3 medium, 1/3 good. And as we get our projects done, we're evolving to a much more green map, which is much more high quality streets. So 2018, our score for our streets citywide was a 59, and after all these projects and bringing in new grants and changing our strategy on how we handle this, we've gone from 59 to 82. It's actually, I believe it's a very impressive improvement over a 3-year span of time. This is a breakdown of our streets by area and by condition. So green is now excellent and blue is good. You can see 3/4 of our streets now are considered good or excellent. One quarter is fair, poor, and failed. If you live on these streets or commute on these streets, you're going to absolutely know those are bad condition streets. Our problem isn't over, but we are making very good progress. And I did look up, at the time of making this presentation, our surrounding cities. And Alhambra 77, Monterey Park is 66, Rosemead 76, Temple City is 58, San Marino 70, and El Monte is 59. So we are several points above even the better cities around us now. I'm hoping over my time here that we really change our image of a poor street city. So this is future spending. We are jumping right back into the process. What we've done, a couple things we've done. We've used our in-house staff more for these projects to do crack seal ahead of slurry seal, to put in fiber optic conduit under Las Tunas before we paved it. We did that with in-house staff and council support. It's a much more cost-effective way of getting things done. And we certainly didn't want to put in fiber optic conduit on Las Tunas right after paving and go out there and dig up the street. So we did meet that. It did take months to get it in. Our budget for this coming year for paving is going down quite a lot. It was 5.7 after new grants and compiling 3 years of particular grants, and it was an unusually high year. This coming year, it's going to be much lower. It's budgeted at 1.5 million with an additional 350,000 of CDBG money, so it's almost 4 million less than it was this year. Pretty substantial decrease. Council may authorize more money for specific things. I don't know. We haven't started budgets yet, but this is tentatively what it is, and closer to what we historically spent. Other projects are Delmar's finally moving. We do have Edison out there right now, undergrounding these distribution lines, transmission and distribution lines. So as it approaches this hotel project, there'll be a new steel pole. All these lines will dive underground and come up on the other side of Valley. And then the city has to redo a sewer line in this area, and then we will come back and pave it. We're hoping all that happens in '22. Just the Edison work is 6 months. It'll go maybe to June. We've agreed to do a future project with the county in 2022 in this northeast area of the city where the streets are very commingled with county and city land. The blue on this map is our streets, and we agreed to pay them to include our streets in this territory that they're doing. I believe Temple City also paid to have them do some Temple City streets in this project, but we've agreed to do this with them. It's paid for. Our share is $600,000, but we don't have to pay out money for that. They will just withhold $600,000 of future county-issued grants. Same thing here. They will withhold money for future years. So this is a '23 project with them. It's Broadway and Walnut Grove, which are two poor condition streets in this area. I think Walnut Grove is one of our worst streets. This project is more expensive because they will be putting sidewalks in, but Broadway currently does not have sidewalks in over many blocks. So they'll be doing sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and paving. Our share of this project was estimated by the county to be $2.1 million. We did meet with them and negotiate that down to $1 million of our contribution using Supervisor Berger's funds and other LA County funds. So I think we got a good deal on that one too. This is a '23 project. We have other projects where Metro is funding 100%. Metro is managing the design right now for Valley Boulevard at New, Delmar, and San Gabriel. There'll be new intersection projects. They will, some places, widen the streets a bit. We'll get more lanes in there, more turn pockets, new signal equipment, new striping. It's a whole new design to, the intent is to reduce congestion and improve throughput and get cars through faster and have less delay. It does include some paving out certain distances, a couple hundred feet from the intersections for advanced loop detectors and geometry changes and striping. So we will get some paving on Valley out of this project. And that's the end of that presentation. Some other things to discuss. In the world of sewers, we're still working on our sewer master plan. We have the model almost complete, which will dictate roughly 10 years of capital investment in the sewers. We're cameraing our lines now. We have to do that every 5 years citywide, and we bought a camera truck. We just, at the end of, well, in December is our annual year end, we completed all the fats, oils, and grease inspections of the restaurants, and we've jetted every single line in the city, and the hotspot lines where we have a history of grease and roots and other problems, we typically jet them 4 times a year. So that's all done. We do that every year. It never stops. And jetting is a truck with a giant hose and high pressure water that actually blasts our main lines clean, reducing their chances of backing up. Our facilities staff is running around doing routine maintenance at city buildings, but their main project they're still working on is the fire station bathroom, the South Fire Station main bathroom. It got fully gutted and rebuilt. So they're tiling now, so the project is almost done. Our park staff is going through and trimming trees like they always do and maintaining all our parks and the swimming pool. Our boiler broke down at the swimming pool, so it's now too cold to use, so it's another repair we have to do. Field operations, which put in the fiber optics, that took a long time. Now they're moving on to some deferred work that happened while they were doing that. So they're doing some sidewalk replacements where it's sunken and broken from roots mostly. We're fixing some broken curbs, doing potholes, restriping and painting out there. And after that, that same staff will eventually, in a few months, move on to the police department to begin prepping the site for an addition project on the police department. Metro is also funding a fiber optic design on Valley and San Gabriel Boulevard, which will tie into the Las Tunas conduit we put in. The intent of that is to put a fiber optic network around the city that can have many purposes, but its initial purpose is to link our traffic signal controllers all together to control efficient flow through the city from block to block. Our fleet's doing their routine work. We're doing a lot of routine work of plan checking, issuing permits, maintaining our sewer lift station, which still needs to be drained and cleaned out periodically, and the pumps. It's a bad design, so it's a high maintenance facility. We are also working on a redesign of that. We're doing that design in-house. We'll put it out to bid in-house, manage the inspection and construction phase in-house. So that's coming up. That should be in 22 as well. Our City Hall elevator is almost done. We had the elevator contractor come out and the inspection failed, not because of the elevator equipment, but on our side, the city was responsible for the separate security of the elevator, where if fire is detected, it shuts the elevator down, it drops to the ground floor and opens the door. A couple things happen in an automated process that the city was obligated for, and our contractor tying into their new system, that didn't work. So that's being fixed, I think, this week. We're working on next year's paving plans. We have some other Caltrans funded projects. I think it's 5 different intersections are going to get enhanced, some with left turn lanes, rapid flashing beacons at crosswalks to make cars more aware of pedestrians. So there's some safety enhancements. And over the last few weeks, we've had a lot of staff out for holidays, vacations, and COVID's going around. So we've had lots of people, not lots, but maybe a quarter of our staff over the last month have been out with COVID exposure or symptoms or testing positive, and I'm one of them. I had it over the holidays as well. Worst gift ever from my children for Christmas. So that, I think, is about it for this edition, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you very much.